Did you know that aluminum is heavier than concrete? Whoa, are you sure? Yeah. A cubic foot of aluminum is 169 pounds, and a cubic foot of concrete is 150 pounds. The application is different. How do you compare things? When you're looking at sheds, one price for this, one price for that, how do you tell the difference when you're not the one in the industry? Let's look at some of our sheds here. Our doors. They are built with 2x4s, angle braces on all four corners, a turnbuckle for any variation in the natural wood. We have the sturdiest, straightest doors in the industry. There are other good doors, but are they built this heavy? Probably not. Our siding, you'll hear a lot of different terms for our siding. Different companies use the same siding as we do. It's a pretty standard. It's called Louisiana Pacific, or LP, Smart Side. T111. T111 has the grooves. Our skids, a lot of people wonder why we have more skids. Some people wonder why our skids are only 4x4 instead of 4x6. Here's why. Residential building code is an 8-inch maximum rise for any step. If you have a 4x6 right here and then a 2x6, you are at 11.5 inches of rise. That is 3.5 inches over maximum. So in our effort to be completely legal with code, we keep this down at 8 inches. Well, what about strength? Because you only have 2x4 joists. We have 2x4 joists, 16 inches on center. But then look at how many skids we have. 5 skids on a 12 wide building. We have 7 skids on a 14 wide and 7 skids on a 16 wide. We even have 5 skids on a 10 wide. Why is that? We use more skids to keep our clearance lower. So we are within the residential building code maximum of 8 inches. Our floor. There's a lot of names that people come up with this. Smart floor, classic floor, whatever kind of floor you want to call it. Our floor is ProStruct 5/8 tongue and groove, 365-day zero absorption subfloor. You can drive a 4-wheeler in here, you can have mud in here, zero absorption. So now let's look at some things for you to look for as a consumer. A few places where other companies are cutting costs and we are maintaining quality that may seem a little bit hidden, kind of like my illustration of aluminum and concrete. Metal threshold on our floors. That is a quality because we care. You could cut a few dollars off of the shed by not having that, but you as the customer are going to start seeing scrapes and chips on your threshold on a cheaper shed. Our latches, top and bottom, 5/8 barrel bull latches. Very high quality, they slide in and out nicely. They're not the smaller circumference. I'm not cutting corners there. Where the siding is not tall enough to go to the peak, which is standard in all shed companies. This is Z-metal transition strip. With the water that comes down, runs right back out because that goes up behind the siding underneath there. It makes a clean transition. Your doors. I said we had the best doors in the industry. A lot of shed companies lay all of their 2x4s flat like this one. Obviously we have this one flat for a clean lap system. But you should go and feel the doors. You see how sturdy our doors are. Like there is just about no flex in that. A lot of doors, you can really wiggle them back and forth. That's gonna present a problem later on. I mentioned our ProStruct flooring. This is not plywood. This is ProStruct 5/8. It has a 365-day zero absorption. And we did that ourselves. We took a piece, submerged it underwater and left it there for 1 full year, pulled it out. It was the exact same size at the end of the year. We used a micrometer. It had taken on 0 water. In your shed, you need to have something that will not take on water. So other companies are cutting costs by using cheaper material. Plywood is not water rated. You're going to get water in the shed at some point, in some level. That veneer and plywood will separate. I don't care what they call it. If it's plywood, it's going to separate. Let's look at the framing a little bit here. We have 16-inch on center framing, just like standard building code. We have double top plates, single bottom plate, that's residential. In our framing, we do vertical studs underneath our sills. That is proper residential building code structure. Look for framing underneath the sill. Look for the jack underneath the header, if they even have a header. A lot of companies are cutting out these headers. It saves them a little bit of time, saves them a little bit of money. Kind of like how the airlines cut out lettuce and saved multiple thousands of dollars in their airline breaks or lunches. We have headers over our windows. If you don't have a header over the window, what is going to hold this rafter weight when you get all the snow on it? You need structural integrity above windows. Let's take a look at our vents. We have an 8-inch by 8-inch vent. This is a standard vent in all of our buildings, unless you get the Prestige, which then has the arched garden vent. These vents have trim around them on the outside. They have a very aesthetic look. Once again, we are maintaining quality. A lot of companies will go to the little staple-on aluminum vent that is much, much cheaper, and they can cut costs. This is another thing to look for in pricing sheds. Two more things I'd like to show you. One is with siding, one is with trusses. If you look at this siding, it has legible print on the back side. A lot of companies are buying secondary siding from LP. You can buy that. It is siding that is cut slightly off square. There's defects. It might have a little bit of delamination somewhere, and they put it in a pile and sell it as seconds. The way to tell if it is a seconds, they have a black swipe of paint on each sheet. So if you walk in a building and there is a black swipe of paint, usually about 4 to 9 inches wide, usually gray, black, blue, something like that. There's just a big swipe. That means that it is from a pile of secondary siding that you can buy at half price. We do not do that. We get questioned a lot about our OSB gussets. These gussets are engineered in Idaho to current building code. They rate 40% heavier than other people's metal gussets. These gussets have a regulated amount of staples on each side. There's a gusset on each side, and then we add a collar tie. That is what these cross members are called. Every 8 feet on buildings over 20 feet long. That is engineer regulated. Our trusses are 60 pounds per square foot or more, obviously depending on the building. This is a 12 wide building, so these 2x4 trusses with these gussets and these collar ties is an 82 pound snow load without any upgrades. Let's talk about paint. Do you offer stain grade? Yes, we do, but only if you ask. We prefer urethane paint. It's a 25-year paint. It has the variegation. You see the deep pigment in the grooves? That is the urethane paint. The difference of that over stain grade is, in this area, we have an average of 39% humidity. The moisture gets in that stain grade and it can actually mold. If you look at some of these sheds, they get a little darker closer to the bottom. That's because it's a stain instead of a paint. This keeps the moisture completely out. Speaking of keeping the elements out, that's the whole purpose of having a shed, correct? Otherwise, we'd just throw a tarp over something. Let's talk about keeping the elements out and also keeping up with the warranty of the manufacturers. In our buildings, it takes more time to caulk all of our nails. So if you look right here, all of our nails in the trim are all caulked. All of the nails that are below the surface on the siding are caulked. I can't even find one. Let's look down a little lower. There we go. There, see how these are all caulked? When you have a nail that is below the surface and it is not caulked, the water will get in there, expand that siding from the moisture, and it will separate. Another thing we do is when we are painting, we turn the gun upside down and shoot on the bottom of this siding. That is something to look for in other shed companies. Not everybody takes that extra time to get that bottom. And I'll tell you something else. Our buildings have a 10-year warranty. That's the craftsmanship warranty. That's everything we do. the manufacturer warranties apply to all of the components. So if your building does not have paint on the bottom of that LP Smart Side, there is no warranty on that siding. Some other things that people cut costs on their sheds, and we maintain quality. Real quick, check out the honey gold urethane trim. Doesn't that look cool? All right, metal. On our metal, we use trim underneath. If you zoom in here, you will see the trim underneath here that is fully protected from rodents, bees. We put our metal on. If you look at our high side buildings, the gambrel shaped roofs, you will notice a transition piece between the two pitches. It's called a pitch change or a transition piece. Look for that in other companies. They don't have it. Another thing we do underneath that transition piece, we put closure strips. This is a piece of one. So underneath our transition pieces, underneath our ridge caps, we put this foam strip that perfectly conforms to the ridge of the profile, sets in there nicely, and then the metal goes on top of that. Bees and mice cannot go underneath that that closure strip. So in glass doors, other companies are cutting costs by taking door panels that may or may not be exterior rated. They are mounting regular shed door hinges on the surface and no jamb and no threshold and no weather stripping. Maybe putting a little aluminum window in it, and they're calling it a 9-light door. Our 9-light door is a bona fide 9-light half glass house entry door. Cost difference, about double. It looks similar in pictures. It's not the same thing. Our entry doors are residential house entry doors. They are not a slab panel with surface mounted hinges. When you get our 9-light half glass entry door, you're getting the jamb, the weather stripping, the threshold, and an actual door that seals. We always put a flashing below our trim, so any water that comes down is then shed away from the door itself. Along with everything I told you about jambs and weather stripping and thresholds, when you get a 9-light entry door from us, it is an insulated pane. That means it's a low E, which is low emissivity. It's insulated. An aluminum shed window does not have any insulation. It is a single pane window. If you heat the inside of that building, that single pane glass will condensate. Our low E double pane glass windows in the door, which is a residential door, do not condensate. This is our standard 512 A-frame, 2-inch gable, 4-inch eave. 712 pitch Prestige Series, 6-inch gables, 4-inch eaves. Let's go in here and talk about pitch for just a second. Okay, talking about eaves, gables, and pitch. If you're not familiar with it all, this is a quick explanation. Obviously, the wider the eave, the wider the gable, the further away from the building you get your runoff from the snow and the rain. A wider gable is going to protect your doors a little better. A wider eave is going to protect the side and the windows a little better. A steeper pitch is going to take the snow off quicker. 312 monoslope, a 512 A-frame, a 712 Prestige, and then we have the 912 Alpine. What do all those numbers mean? Well, this is a 712 pitch Prestige building. So if we come over here to the corner and we measure out 12 inches, there is our 12, and now we're going to go up 7 from right there. See where that lines up? So your 712 pitch is 12 inches over, is 7 inches up. That's how steep the angle is. If it's a 512, it's 12 inches over, 5 inches up. That's right here. So you get your 312, your 512, your 712, your 912. Let's go back to our aluminum versus concrete comparison. Whoa, aluminum is heavier than concrete? Yes. Let's look at an 8x10 shed right here. This is a Prestige Series 8x10, has the 5x7 foot tall doors, arch trim, wider header, Victorian hinges on all of them, 712 pitch roof, soffit, 6-inch gables, 4-inch eaves, 7-foot wall height. And over here, we have another 8x10, but this is an economy. It's got 412 pitch roof, no gable, no overhang, steel corners. This is where we cut costs and are actually meeting some of the needs for a lower cost builder. But you'll see that it's a much more basic shed. It's 2 foot on center, single top plate. We still have the threshold. This shed is considerably cheaper than the 8x10 Prestige. The back of this 8x10, you notice the wall height is just a 6-foot stud with a single top plate. So that's 6'3" on the inside. Very basic shed. Know what you're comparing against. These were both 8x10 buildings and they're both gray. Shed does not equal a shed. You'll find this in stores where you go, you might see a 36 by 36 window. It's for $237. What if we would walk down this aisle and find another 36 by 36 that looks just like it? Right here. Whoa, why is there an $80 difference? So what's the difference? What are you paying for? Are you getting quality?
When you are shopping for a shed, ultimately a shed is not a shed. There are a lot of things that go into pricing. There are a lot of options that may be hidden that you as the consumer are not informed about, you perhaps don't know about. There can be a lot of things that are included or assumed that they're included, but they're actually eliminated. Like I talked about earlier with the 9-light door. There's a big difference in the terminology that is used. When you use the industry standard titles, you know what you're getting. You want something that's going to last a long time. That is ultimately the best bang for your buck, correct? I showed you a window that was $159. It was a 36 by 36. And then there was another one that was a 36 by 36 as well, but it was $237. What is the difference in a 50% increase for the same size window? Well, let's talk about 3 things: low E, argon, and krypton. So low E, you've probably seen that on windows. It is a special ceramic coating that goes on the surface of the glass that reduces heat transfer. Now, we have a double pane window in that door or in that window. That means there is a gap in between the 2 panes and it is filled with air unless they suction it out by vacuum and fill it with argon. Argon is denser than air, which means there is less moisture molecules in that space, which also reduces heat transfer again. Another thing they use on even higher grade windows is krypton. Krypton is even more dense than argon. All of this is not anything you need to know. It's for us to know and present it to you, our customers, as a knowledgeable base to build your shed off of. This is where we are knowledgeable. We're providing you with the facts. We're showing you the efficient and most bang for your buck for all of the components on your shed. You don't want to be cutting corners that is actually affecting your quality and going to cost you in years to come. We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. That is a quote from Winston Churchill. It's a very popular quote ultimately, but it's true. We think about our homes that we buy as our biggest investment, and that is what we need to be frugal with. We need to buy long term and make sure everything is energy efficient. But what about your shed? Your shed is in the backyard. Your house is your big investment. That shed is an extension of your home. As you will find, building departments are continually getting more involved in permitting sheds, and banks are continually getting more involved in calling out buildings real property. That means that they are a structure, not just a shed that's going to be there for 5 years. Are you buying a shed that's going to be there for 5 years? Or are you buying real property that's going to be there for a long time? When you sit in your house on Saturday morning drinking coffee, sure, you can see the interior of your home and you can be happy about it, but you're not actually looking at the beauty of the outside and the aesthetics. A shed doesn't necessarily have an interior on it, but when you're sitting in your living room drinking your coffee and you're looking out your window, you're looking at your shed. What do you want to look at? Do you want to look at a shed that you realized after you purchased it was actually just trying to add to their quota for that month? Or would you prefer to look out the window at your shed and you know that it is energy efficient, it has high quality paint, the doors are straight on it, the roof is built to hold the snow load, your windows in it are low E, they are argon filled, your paint is a 25-year paint, you're not going to have mold issues, your floor is structurally sound. Will it last? Or is it just another number in their monthly quota? Here at the Shed Center, we are focused on quality. We are focused on getting you, our customer, with the building that you want. Obviously, we want sales. You know what we want more? We want happy customers. To date, we have 100% happy customers, and we will make you the next one. All of our buildings are engineered and stamped to local residential codes, and we have a stamp for Oregon, we have a stamp for Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, all of them current residential building codes, and they do pass for permits. That is the standard of quality that we hold to here at the Shed Center. We would like to pass that along to you. Like, comment, and subscribe to see more content like this, and run over to our Facebook page, The Shed Center, and catch the quote of the day. I'm Joe Gish with The Shed Center, and I can get you storage your way. 208-946-3006 or 208-597-1698.